Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm with you today. It is December 8th, early in the evening, and I wanted to talk to you about, Brittney Griner. And this is a bit of a rant. I'm upset. I'm pissed off because of the virtue signaling we are seeing from the Biden administration and how it's going to endanger the world, not just the United States, not just our allies. We have seen the Biden administration, through its illogic of its international policy, its foreign policy, has endangered the world, and we all need to be aware of it. Call it out for what it is. But before I get started with that, if this is the first time that you're seeing our channel, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for being part of our audience. We do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that the internet overlords allow to be able to hear your tweets, your chats, your phone calls, to speak to you from anywhere in the world, because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to free speech to talk about the issues that are affecting us all everywhere across the globe. So we hope you will join us this Sunday and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Why am I willing to rant right now? This is imbecilic. It's worse than just being dumb. It's worse than being another expression of the lack of foreign policy of the Biden-Harris administration. It's another example of trying to look good while substantively being bad. This is a problem. And I'll walk you through this because I know most people forgot some of the earlier parts of this. This whole thing started because Brittney Griner, who is a WNBA star. I know, almost nobody knows who she is. Almost nobody watches the WNBA. I don't blame you for that. But she's an entertainer, and she was going to Russia to play basketball. That's it. That's her claim to fame. She's black, gay, and plays basketball. That's Brittney Griner in 3, but there is a 4th thing to add to this. She's also, she smokes marijuana. And when she travels, she takes her marijuana with her. Now, somehow, Brittney Griner is such a ultra genius. She decided to go to a foreign country, in particular to Russia, a nation, even this is before we had the conflict with Ukraine, before the proxy war, economic proxy war that the United States and our allies in NATO have been conducting against Russia. That has been failing. No, before all of that, Brittney Griner decided to go to Russia to play basketball. Fine, that's her choice. Entertainers do stupid things. They go to Cuba. They go to North Korea. Okay, she went to Russia. But when she went to Russia, she brought marijuana with her. She brought her drugs with her. And like anyone who's traveling overseas, you check the laws of that nation. You kind of find out what are you in for? What do you have to deal with? But Brittney Griner is an entertainer. She's a black gay entertainer, which means she's above the law. And she was raised and born in America, a nation she doesn't have any great love for. And she said, oh, well, I'm entitled. I can do what I want. Because in America, she does what she wants, whether it breaks the law or not. So Brittney Griner, the genius that she is, decided to go to Russia and bring drugs with her. Her exact statement, this is from NPR, this is from July 7th of 2022. Brittney Griner said that she pleaded guilty to drug charges as her trial was continuing. She admitted in court that she brought in drugs into Russia because she was packing and in a hurry, and she's sorry because she didn't mean to break the law. What? How entitled do you have to be? I was in a rush. I'm sorry. Let me go. You broke the law. It's a crime. It's not an if or a maybe. You admit you packed your drugs to go into a foreign country where it's illegal to bring in drugs. That is a crime. Oh, I'm really sorry. Every criminal in cell block D is sorry they broke the law, or at least sorry they got caught breaking the law. That's not an excuse. That doesn't let you get away with it. So she is an admitted criminal, and she was found guilty for that crime, and she was sentenced with 9 years. Now, you and I may say that that's a bit extreme. You and I may say, well, that's because of the politics going on between Russia and the United States and the Ukraine. You may say that she is being used as a pawn, and I would not disagree with that. But the fact is, in another country, that's their law, that's their rules. She was properly tried, convicted, and sentenced. Whether you and I think that's a good thing has nothing to do with it. But she is, by definition, a criminal. Being black, being lesbian, being an entertainer does not change she is a criminal. And she did it on purpose. Because she could have stopped and took the drugs out of her bags at any time. She didn't. That's on her. And this is why we went out and we had this short that we put together. Because Joe Biden has been under massive pressure to get her released. Because a bunch of WNBA stars, because the LGBTQ political elites said she can't be black, she can't be a lesbian, and a drug user in Russia. That's just too much. That can't be a crime because she's black and she's a lesbian and she's an entertainer. So it can't be a crime. You have to do something. And so this is what Joe Biden had to say. This was 4 weeks ago, a month ago.
I can't. I mean, you know, it would not be a wise thing to do in order to see if they would. But it is I'm telling you, I am determined to get her home and get her home safe, along with others, might add.
When you say others, are you talking about the 5,000 Americans abandoned in Afghanistan over a year ago, or the 10,000 Americans in Ukraine abandoned this year? Which one is it? Who is less important than the basketball diversity star? When I said the Americans in Afghanistan, over a year ago, Joe Biden ran away from Afghanistan. When he ran away from Afghanistan, he created the first terrorist army of the world. He left weapons and money and ammunition for the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. He also happened to leave, we believe, 5,000 Americans. It could be as high as 9,000 Americans. It is more than the 100 Americans that on September 1st of 2021 that Joe Biden promised Americans. He promised us there's 100 Americans left behind and he will get them home. By August 14th of 2022, 800 Americans came back. So he lied. He lied. He knew because 6 times between September 1st of 2021 and January 1st of 2022, the State Department under Antony Blinken, the Biden-Harris administration, changed the number of Americans that were still in Afghanistan 6 times. 6 times they changed the numbers. Going up a little bit, going down a little bit, constantly changing how many Americans were there as they were bringing Americans over, more and more of them home, but never giving an actual total. And then we found out in February that it could be as many as 9,000 Americans he knew were left in Afghanistan. And he didn't care. And the answer was he stopped talking about it. In January, the United States government under the Biden-Harris administration stopped speaking about Afghanistan. They don't mention the country. They don't mention Americans. They won't talk about bringing anyone home. They stopped talking about it. And the news media, for the most part, went right along with that. and stopped talking about that. Although the last time we had a comment came from the United States Afghan embassy that said there's still somewhere between 100 and 200 Americans left in Afghanistan. It's the same thing they said in 2021. They're saying the same thing over and over again if anyone asks, but they don't want anyone to ask. And as we have shown you on this channel many times, we have sent out letters, we have made calls and requests. There is no one in the government who knows how many Americans are in Afghanistan, and no one is doing anything to get them home, least of all Joe Biden. But Joe Biden didn't end it there. Joe Biden also, this year, in February, it was February 10th, Joe Biden went on to NBC News and told the Americans, some 10 to 20,000 Americans in the Ukraine, that they were on their own. Joe Biden would not save any of them, not their kids, not those working for the State Department, nobody. In fact, this is what we had to say at the time. So I listened to it. And this is the exact section, and I want you to hear this so it is completely in context.
Asked about the tense standoff with Russia over Ukraine.
What are your plans toward American citizens who are in Ukraine and might be there during an invasion? What scenarios would you put American troops to rescue and get Americans out?
There's not. That's a world war. When Americans and Russia start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
Not even.
He will not go to save American lives that are in danger in a nation that is at war. Keep in mind, these are members of the United States State Department. They work for the United States embassies. Now, I want to be clear, when I said that, the main issue at the time was Joe Biden had just sent out a message to the United States embassy workers in Ukraine, telling them, find a way to get out. That Joe Biden would not save them, their families, or their children. No one's going to get any help. And in that video that you see on the screen, we went over, he could have done it for about it would have cost about $500,000 to fly a C-130 2 hours into Kiev, pick up all of the children. This is before any of the bullets started flying. He could have flown the C-130 into Kiev. He could have flown it into any city in the Ukraine, and he could have gotten all of the American children, maybe their moms too, maybe their dads, whomever, could have loaded them up on a C-130 and flown them back to Ramstein base in Germany. The whole thing would have taken 4, maybe 5 hours time, tops. Would have cost $500,000. Let's call it $1 million, which is a drop in the bucket considering we spend trillions of dollars a year. We could have easily done it before the bullets ever started firing. And instead, Joe Biden said, you're on your own. Figure it out for yourself. In fact, he didn't just say it then, but it was then followed up on August 23rd. So not just the State Department workers, but every American that was still in Ukraine, 10 to 20,000 Americans. He told them August 23rd, get out. The exact statement, this is according to CBS News. The U.S. Embassy urges U.S. citizens to depart Ukraine now using privately available ground transportation options if it's safe to do so. If you can get out, get out. You can't take a plane, find a car, buy a car, rent a car, figure it out, get yourself out. Because the United States isn't coming. Because the United States government isn't going to do its job. So we have a grand total of somewhere around 5,000 Americans in Afghanistan and somewhere around 10,000 Americans in the Ukraine, including children. 15,000 Americans were just thrown out the window, forgotten about by the Biden-Harris administration. Figure it out on your own. Deal with it on your own. Joe Biden has no time for any of them because it looks bad. It makes him look weak. Mind you, all the world leaders know that there's 15,000 Americans that he just threw to the wayside. All the leaders of the world know that these 15,000 Americans represent the fortitude, the intestinal strength of the Biden-Harris administration. That if he is willing to abandon his own people, women and children, defenseless women and children in foreign countries, if he's not willing to help them, even with something as simple as flying in a C-130 plane to evacuate them before any fighting starts, if he's not willing to do that, how likely is he to support any of his NATO allies, Europe, United Kingdom, Southeast Asia? We're talking about South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. How likely is Joe Biden to help anyone in the world if he's not willing to help children? That's what the world is looking at. And they don't trust him. They don't have a reason to trust him. So today, December 8th, Joe Biden, in his unbelievable, incredible, incredulous mind, Joe Biden decided that today was the great day. He was going to get Brittney Griner, a black lesbian entertainer, a basketball player, an admitted, self-admitted criminal. He got her home. He's bringing her home from Russia. He made a deal with Russia to get that one criminal. He didn't get a ceasefire so he could fly in a C-130, let all the American children fly out, not to have a route of safety so that he could get in, get those American children, get them home. Nope. A route on the road where just American citizens could drive down, prove who they were, and get out of the country. Nope. He didn't do any of that. He got an entertainer, a criminal entertainer, to go home. And all it cost us was Viktor Bout, one of the world's most oppressive, dangerous individuals. This is a man, Viktor Bout, who is on a 25-year sentence. He aided and abetting killing American citizens. He armed militaries and terrorists around the world. He has blood all over him. He didn't even bother to help a U.S. Marine, Paul Whelan, who's been in custody for 4 years, not a couple of months like the entertainer, but for 4 years. He's been in jail in Russia on espionage charges. He's not a criminal. He didn't admit to committing a crime. No. They just said he's a spy, he's a Marine, and they threw him in jail. And the woman who said, I'm a drug addict and I'm importing drugs, making her a drug dealer or at least a drug mule, no, she's the important one. She's the one that we have to pay attention to because she's black and she's a lesbian and she's an entertainer. Look, I don't care if you're black and entertainer, lesbian, I don't care. That's your personal life. That's some of your immutable characteristics. I don't care about that. But these are the only reasons why she's free. Paul Whelan, a United States Marine dedicated to our nation, he's in jail. 15,000 Americans are lost somewhere in the world under fire, hiding from enemies that want to kill them. And we got an entertainer. And all it cost us is the international peace and stability of the world. When I say that Viktor Bout is a bad man, he's such a bad man, Hollywood made a movie about his life. And they didn't need to embellish anything. They just told some of the tame stories about what he did in Africa, destabilizing Africa, arming African warlords. You may have heard of the movie. It was called The Lord of War. The guy that was the inspiration of the movie, a movie that was based on true facts, a movie about this man who killed people around the world, including American citizens. This is who we just gave back. And why did we do it? Well, let's hear from the movie itself.
Enjoy it.
What?
This. Tell me I'm everything you despise. that I'm the personification of evil, that I'm what? Responsible for the breakdown of the fabric of society and world order.
Yes, Viktor Bout is all of that. That's not a lie. They're not embellishing. They're not changing. Yes, he is. He has enabled terrorists around the world, warlords in Africa. He has destabilized countries around the world. This is the magnitude of the person that we are talking about.
I'm a one-man genocide. Say everything you want to say to me now. You don't have.
Are you paying attention? Or are you delusional? You have broken every arms embargo written. There is enough evidence here to put you away for consecutive life sentences. You are going to spend the next 10 years of your life going from a cell to a courtroom before you even start serving your time.
I wish they were right. No, it was only 25 years. 25 years. But they're right. He broke every law internationally in the United States. Mass murder, responsible for mass murders around the world. And he's getting out.
For the enemies. Your enemy. Sometimes it's embarrassing to have his fingerprints on guns. Sometimes he needs a freelancer like me to supply forces he can't be seen supplying. So, you call me evil, but unfortunately for you, I'm a necessary.
And that's why it was done. That's why Brittney Griner is getting out. Joe Biden needed a way to get Viktor Bout out. We saw it in the movie. We were told, it was predicted to us. It was art imitating life, life imitating art. What's the whole point? Joe Biden needs a way to arm the people of the Ukraine. He wants to arm the fighters. He wants that fighting to go on. Americans are getting tired. We spent $70 billion to arm Ukraine, and there is no end in sight. That's just from the United States. We sent $70 billion. There's at least $20 billion that are coming from the United Kingdom. There's, I think, somewhere around another $30 billion that's coming from the European Union. We have spent stupid amounts of money, and there is no end in sight. But the American people are getting tired of the Ukraine war. We're getting tired of having our inflation go higher and higher, our recession be extended. We're getting tired of the problems that are affecting us, and we're getting harmed for a war we're not involved in. It's not our war. It was never our war. In the Ukraine, not the best place in the world, not the best leadership. It's one of the more corrupt nations in the world. Better than Russia, absolutely, but not a great place. So I would tell you, why was it Viktor Bout? What was the exchange for? Because most likely the Biden-Harris administration needs some way to get the weapons to the Ukrainians without saying that it's America getting the arms to the Ukrainians. So that through all the slush funds, the Biden-Harris administration can funnel more weapons to the Ukrainians so they can keep fighting Russia. But that also means that Viktor Bout will be able to funnel weapons to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, various warlords like in Burkina Faso, in Africa, throughout South America. He'll be able to get weapons around the world. He'll be able to endanger people's lives around the world. He is a threat to people everywhere in the world, and you are just that much less safe. But the good news is a black lesbian entertainer who hates America is coming home. Screw Biden. Screw this deal. It's bad for America. It's bad for the world. We just hurt people because Biden wants to do something behind your back that he can't do in front of your face because you don't want to do it anymore. So under using this LGBTQ propaganda puppet, he's going to do something you don't want him to do. this game ends badly for everyone. The only winner? Well, it's going to be Brittney Griner. But it sure as hell isn't America, or any of the Americans that have been abandoned by the Biden-Harris administration. And it's not good for any of our allies around the world. It's not good for anyone in the world. And if you think I'm wrong, I'd love to hear why. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.